Welcome in to the newest episode of the Hoth Hangout podcast. Glad to have you all here with us, joining us for episode 63 of the podcast, where we are going to be talking about everything we are looking forward to in the 2024 year that is Star Wars related. Happy New Year to everyone, by the way. Those of you joining us for this episode, glad to have you here with us. Before we hop into all of today's action, I want to give you a quick reminder that if you are not yet subscribed to the Hoth Hangout YouTube channel, definitely check us out over there for all the video versions of every single podcast, as well as our reactions to new Star Wars shows when they go live. Additionally, you can contact us at our email, hothhangout@gmail.com, with any of your Star Wars thoughts or questions, and we'll be able to display them here on the podcast and discuss those as well. Additionally, you can always check out the Hoth Hangout podcast anywhere you get your podcasts, including Spotify and Apple. And if you are listening on any platform where you're able to leave a review, leave us a 5-star review. We would appreciate it very much. And it also allows the podcast to be discovered more easily by others as well. So we would appreciate that so very much. Additionally, Hoth Hangout is reachable on all the socials, whether it be Instagram, TikTok, or X at Hoth Hangout on each of those platforms. Joey, hope you're doing well, man. Hope your 2024 is off to a great start. What's going on?
I haven't talked to you in a year. It's crazy. It's
It's
been
been a
so long.
year.
It's been a year. Happy 2024. Happy New Year to everyone. It's been we're starting off the new year with a new episode of the podcast, so it's a lot of fun. More importantly, though, one of us celebrated a birthday over this week, and it's not you and it's not me, but it's our producer Gibbo. So happy birthday to Gibbo. We definitely wanted to take a moment and you know how much you mean to us and to so many other people that do any of these content creation. For those who don't know, Gibbo has his hands in a lot of people's content creation lives. So we do appreciate you, Gibbo, and if you're cool with it, Ben, we would love to see maybe a Gibbo just pop up right here on screen right
I
now.
think we need like a drum roll or something. Maybe we can add it in post or whatnot. But I am agreed, Joey. I think we need
All
a
right.
Gibbo face reveal, perhaps.
All right. Hi. Hello. Hello.
There he is.
How are we,
Happy
guys?
birthday, Gibbo.
Thank
Happy
you.
birthday.
Thank you. It was
How was it?
yeah, it was I had to work, but yeah, traveled interstate for work and I had yesterday off, so I did a little cheeky stream and I was given a like a kudo board with everyone's messages, so it was really nice and I had a good day. Had a good day.
Hey, you deserve all the love, man, and we appreciate everything you do for us and for so many.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Now on with the show.
Absolutely.
We're gonna make you cry again.
Well, and additionally, anyone else who's listening, if you would do us a huge favor, leave a sweet message for Gibbo down in the comments, even if it's just a short, quick happy birthday. We would appreciate it very much. As we've expressed on other episodes of the podcast, Gibbo is what makes this podcast go. He's what makes it look good and brings it all together as well. So, like Joey said, we appreciate you, Gibbo, and much love, man. Happy birthday! Happy birthday down in the comments as well. Well, we have a fun one in store for today. Before we get to all of what we're excited for about 2024, we wanted to touch on a couple of short news related updates that we got over the past few days. Nothing necessarily groundbreaking, as is the case sort of during these time periods between Star Wars shows. However, we did get a little bit of new news in regards to the upcoming Star Wars open world video game, Star Wars Outlaws. The window for this game was officially confirmed. It was speculated that we might get this at some point earlier in the year, but now we have confirmation, I believe, from Disney executives saying that this will come out in the 2024 2025 fiscal year, aka quarter three or quarter four of this year, 2024. So, meaning we probably will get this at the earliest August, and perhaps anytime between August and December, or maybe July and December. So, a little bit of updates in regards to that. And I know we're going to be discussing more about Star Wars Outlaws in today's episode as well. Was there anything you wanted to add in regards to that piece of news, Joey?
It just feels like they're loading the second half of the year with more things now because
Hmm.
I believe we found that Skeleton Crew is going to be around that time, maybe closer to Q4. And now they're going to have this. So hopefully they're spreading things out a little bit, where we'll see an Acolyte a little bit earlier. Maybe we'll see, Tales of the Jedi maybe earlier in the season if we get that. So yeah, I mean, as long as it all makes sense like throughout the year, it's fine. But yeah, they're definitely stacking the end of the year, the second half of the year at this point.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's probably the result of the strike we saw at the end of last year, but maybe we'll get either, like, Bad Batch Season 3 or Tales of the Jedi earlier on in the year, but there's a decent chance it might not be a super busy next 6 months in regards to Star Wars content. But nonetheless, we're gonna get a lot of cool stuff this year, which is what we'll be talking about today. So, anyways, Star Wars Outlaws officially confirmed for either quarter 3 or quarter 4 of this year, 2024. The other piece of news that we wanted to touch on, which is sort of somewhat breaking the Star Wars internet in the last few days. I think this was only released like 3 or 4 days ago
Hmm.
at the time of this recording. It is a fan made production of Revenge of the Sith's finale, The Battle of Heroes, which is made in the Clone Wars style of animation. This is done by YouTube channel Hello There Productions or Hello There Animation. We'll try to remember to link their page down in the description of the video version of the podcast. This is really well done. I'm just gonna say this is about as close to Clone Wars style animation as I've ever seen. There's moments in this trailer or this 15-minute sort of fan made movie that if you haven't seen this, feels like you're just watching Clone Wars. And then there's even like some parts that are added in, like the first 2 minutes or so is not something that actually takes place in episode 3, but is sort of a segment that has been added in by these fan animators as sort of like a precursor conversation that Anakin and Obi-Wan may have had prior to the Battle of Heroes, centering around Anakin's failing as a master to Ahsoka and kind of comparing it with how Obi-Wan has been with the master to Anakin. So, anyways, if you are watching the video version of the podcast, what you're seeing on the screen right now is that fan-made animation in the Clone Wars style. I think I've seen this, but I don't know if Joey, you haven't seen this yet, have you?
I have not, and watching this right now, just a little bit that we've seen, it really does look like it's part of the Clone Wars and not something that you would expect from a fan necessarily. So, props to Hello There Productions or that channel because this is really good stuff and it really captures the oh wow it's the Battle of Mustafar. So it looks
Mhm.
like it really does look like the Clone Wars animated into the to episode 3 and I kind of wish this was real. I mean, it is real, and yeah, I think that what's cool about the internet and the communities is that they could build these types of things, something maybe that we never necessarily asked for, but now that we see it, we feel like, oh, this is something that I would have loved to have seen.
Yeah, it's interesting too. I mean, we're watching it, you and I now, where we don't necessarily have the audio with it, but when you hear their voices, we in the actual, in this actual production that this fan has made, it's interesting. It's an interesting choice to note that they've chosen to just redo the voices rather than use the original from the film. That's probably for
Hmm,
copyright reasons, I would imagine.
makes sense.
But I think they're using some sort of AI engine to do it because it sounds so similar sometimes that you're
Really,
like, "Wow, that sounds like Ewan McGregor. That sounds like Hayden Christensen."
I'd
Uh,
be curious of how many hours were put into this.
oh, it's I can't even imagine. So this is just to that point. This was originally previewed as a teaser trailer on this Hello There channel three
Oh,
years ago. So this
wow.
is something they've been working on for at least 3 years.
Yeah,
And they've
but
gradually released like, they have a trailer from 2 years ago, they have an update
mm,
trailer from a year ago.
so this is the complete product then here.
Right, so this is something that I would imagine each minute of this 15-minute film probably took 2 to 3 months to make, maybe
Right,
even
right, right.
longer than that. Uh,
Wow.
so just the amount of work that has to go into this when it's a fan-made production, which is probably being made by a couple people, maybe
Mhm.
even one person in a room, just animating this by hand. Um,
It's
this is
amazing.
pretty incredible, honestly. So, a fun
That's
piece
amazing.
of Star Wars content that the greater community has given us of Star Wars, and something that a lot of Star Wars fans are saying, "Wow, this feels very much so like it could have been in Clone Wars." So,
So, does it sound more like Ewan McGregor and
yeah,
Hayden, or more like Matt Latner and
I
whoever, I
mean,
forgot the name of the other
when
Obi-Wan
I'm
character?
watching it, I think it sounds like the live action Episode 3
Okay.
Obi Wan and Anakin more so, only because, and maybe that's just because in my brain I associate this scene so much with Ewan and Hayden's voices
Hmm.
that. But for the most part, I would say more so like the live action versions of the
Okay.
characters than the animated versions. Um,
Cool. Well, I'll have to check this out in its entirety.
Yeah, yeah. And again, for anyone watching the video version, you're seeing it here on the screen now. We'll leave a link down in the comment or in the description of the video if you'd like to check out the full
Not
thing. So
Anakin's legs. No.
I know, yeah, as we watch Anakin like burn in this Mustafar River. Oof. The last part of this with Vader is also really cool, I will say.
Nice.
It feels like they paid
Spoiler.
extra attention. Yeah, spoiler, Anakin might be Vader. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it feels like they paid extra attention to this part.
Oh yeah, look
Look
at
at the way the
that
smoke reflects in the
in
helmet.
the mask there. Yeah.
Oh, it's
Wow.
so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, so
Nice
we'll,
job.
we'll leave the link down in the description. A cool product of the Star Wars community that we had just a few days ago. So and I will also add that channel, it looks like, at least judging by that being the only content they've posted, in the past 2 years, either being trailer updates or just this video itself. This feels like the main thing they've been working on for the past 2 or 3 years, or perhaps the only
Mm,
thing, so,
that's amazing.
yeah, it's probably pretty cool for them to see the reception it's had by the fans. We do have one viewer comment that we wanted to showcase today as well from Aunt Vasuvi, longtime listener of the podcast here. Aunt Vasuvi, hope you're doing well. Happy New Year to you. Aunt Vasuvi also says, thanks to Ben, Joey, and Gibbo. As for Rebel Moon, gorgeous art direction, the characters and plot are serviceable, but it confirms for me that I'm not a huge fan of Zack Snyder's style. Like, I'm glad I watched it. I have zero interest in rewatching it, but I'll gladly watch the sequel. If the whole thing was about Robot Jimmy, I'd probably be more into it. Since asked of all that I loved about 2023 Star Wars, if I must choose one thing, Ahsoka, I hope they can figure out a way to proceed without Ray Stevenson. The story and characters deserve much more exploration. For the upcoming year, of course, I'm most hyped about the Acolyte. Congratulations on all your accomplishments. Many more are ahead. Masuvi, thank you so much for the wonderful comment as well. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
you for, of course, being a longtime listener, but also just for your insightful and thoughtful comments week to week here on the podcast. So we appreciate you very much. And in
And
regards to,
Vesuvi is a and Vesuvi's our fact checker.
yes, yes, our fact checker at Masuvi. In regards to your comment, though, I don't know, Joey, have you seen Rebel Moon yet? Because
I
I
haven't
still
watched it yet.
haven't.
Not
We
yet.
I wanted to watch it sometime in the past week, and I didn't. So hopefully before next episode, I can get around to going and
It's gotta
seeing
fire.
that.
Let's fire up that Netflix. It's right there.
Yes, yeah. Actually, okay. Low key, Netflix. If you're listening, don't listen to this part. But I do have someone else's Netflix login that I recently acquired. So
Oh, oh, interesting.
Netflix, close your ears. You didn't
Wait,
hear
wait,
that from
wait.
me.
People do that with accounts. I've never heard of such
I might
villainy.
have to give Rebel Moon a watch. So, and in addition to Aunt Vesuvi's part of the comment where, the acolyte was touched on, that's also going to be something we talk about in today's podcast as well. So, stay tuned for that in a later portion of episode 63 here today. Additionally, before we get into the 2024 stuff, the very last thing we do want to talk about is that Joey, you in fact got some half off holiday items, some post Christmas pickups for your collection. Is that right?
If you don't know anything about the holiday season, whenever Christmas passes, everything goes on sale that is holiday related. So, my wife did go out one day and just kind of went crazy, went ham on the holiday items, and of course, with us being Star Wars fans, well, with me being a Star Wars fan, she's the wife of a Star Wars fan. The she of course had to buy a couple of things for me, so they're all ornaments, so absolutely very much holiday type items, all half off. So Let's start with a little bit of R2 and C3PO and a little
Oh,
ornament
cool.
right here. And it's not focusing as much as I want it to. There you go. We got them as ornaments, and then we've got Boba Fett as well. Has one. Oh, we're not done yet. We've got the Mandalorian with Grogu here, and these are all like branded. They're Funko Pops essentially. There you
Right.
go. But they're just like in this smaller scale, so you could hang them from your trees or whatever.
They look like mini Funko Pops
They
almost.
do, yeah, and they're actually like real solid too. Like the other ones are the regular Funko Pops are more of a plasticky. This is almost like ceramic feeling
Huh.
actually. So we got Grogu here. And then, of course, I had to leave the best for last. Our favorite Ahsoka here.
Oh, nice.
All the yeah, and this one was a Walmart exclusive, so even more sought after. I don't know if it is, um, but yeah. But if you know me as a Funko collector, I normally keep all my Funkos in the box. So luckily for these ornaments, there's a little tab here, so I can just
Ah, you
hang
can
it
hang it on the
hang it
tree
from
like
there.
that.
Yeah. So I think so next year, when next year comes around, I'll be hanging these from the tree. So thank you to my wife for all of that. But yeah, when she even said like, "Oh, you got to show these on the podcast," I'm like, "Oh, I'm absolutely was going to." So yeah, so if you're lucky, you can go out there, still get them half off if they're still around.
Love that. Yeah, especially the Grogu and Ahsoka ones. Those are pretty cool.
Yeah, and
The
now
the
now
con
they're just everywhere in my desk.
the convenient tab though. What do you how will that look having those hanging from the Christmas tree still in the box? What do you think?
I don't care. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm sure somebody's gonna come by like, shouldn't you be taking those out of the box? I'm like, no, no, that's not
Absolutely
what you.
not.
It's not what you do with the Funkos. You gotta hang them. You gotta hang them.
There you go. Well, pretty cool, and a nice little half off holiday collection that you picked up there.
Yeah,
Check out your local WalMarts. Maybe they've got it there as well. Not hashtag not sponsored.
I'm not sponsored by the way. Right, I was
Well, the time has arrived for us to talk about everything we're looking forward to this year, 2024. I almost said next year. It's kind of hard to believe we're already like into the
Yeah.
new year. If you didn't manage to catch any of last week's episode, we talked about everything that we loved in 2023. So the first natural progression of things would state that we are going to be discussing everything we are looking forward to now in the upcoming 12 months. And so something we would like to pose to all of you as we begin our discussion. What Star Wars are you looking forward the most to in 2024? At the end of today's podcast, Joey and I will also be saying what we are most looking forward to this year. And so, just to begin us off, we're going to kind of go through each of these Star Wars anticipated products that we are looking forward to again in the next 12 months. And the first thing of which that we wanted to touch on is the Acolyte. This is one that's been highly heralded as one of the major products of the 2024 year. Unfortunately, the release date for this is still largely unknown, and it likely will not be coming before the summertime, which, again, this is probably largely due to the strike which we had towards the end of last year. Just a very brief synopsis of what the Acolyte is for those who maybe have not heard yet or are seeking to learn more about what the series is. It'll be the first time we see the High Republic era in the live action. It's also described as a Jedi Fest. Joey, this was something that as I was reading it, I was like, "Oh man, we're gonna be all in on that." And it will take place about 100 years before episode 1, and so lots of speculation as to how will Palpatine be involved, how might Plagueis be involved, who is Palpatine's master, will they be involved at all? There's no confirmation in any regard that they're even going to be in it, but essentially, this is going to depict how the Sith infiltrated the Jedi Order during the pre-Episode 1 timeline, and it will give a kind of a primary look at the dark side perspective of things, with the dark side force users being sort of the people will understandably likely be following during this series. It's also being described as a mystery thriller where a former Padawan reunites with her master to solve a series of crimes, but the forces they confront are more sinister than they anticipated. This stars as in the two leading roles. Amandla Stenberg, whose name I recently learned was Amandla and not Amanda. Uh, and she will be playing the Padawan of Lee Jung Jae. Hope I said the name right. The former who is a former Jedi master, which maybe I still don't know actually if he is a dark side force user in the show or if he is just a former Jedi master. I think it's a little bit unclear in that regard. When I looked up the IMDb, and I was talking to you, Joey, about this before we recorded. When I looked up the IMDb of Amanda Stenberg, it's like I don't recognize her in any of these things. I don't think I've seen any of these movies or shows. And then the one that caught my eye that I told you about before we started recording was The Hunger Games. She
Hmm.
plays
Yeah.
Rue, the girl from I don't remember what district, but who has a close relationship with Jennifer Lawrence's character in that first Hunger Games movie. So shout out Amanda Stenberg. Have you seen are you aware of anything else that she's in that you've seen?
Not that she's been in, no, but I believe he was in the what was the name of that Netflix
Squid
show?
Game.
Squid Game. Yeah, 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 yeah. He was the main character in that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure after Squid Game debuted on Netflix, he was cast in The Acolyte within, like, 2 months of that show being
Oh, really?
just blowing up, yeah.
Yeah, that
Um,
that show. Have you? I'm sure you watched that show. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good. Have you seen it?
Yeah, yeah. That one
Okay.
that got pretty deep, like in a way that I never expected it to.
Mhm. Yeah, and I imagine I mean, The Acolyte could go that same route with it being sort of exploring the dark side more than we've ever seen before. At least
Hmm.
I would think that's the direction they'll go. It could have that dark tone to it. I like the kind of the morally gray stories and
I am yes, you. I'm fully aware. Yeah. So the what's interesting, I mean, this is obviously the first live action from High Republic
Mhm.
era, and we kind of dipped our toe a little bit in some of the High Republic content, reading that comic book. But I know that we've got other books and all that stuff. Sounds like this the one that this takes place 100 years before Phantom Menace, right? So,
Yes.
um, I know like Avar Chris and and her journey is in the High Republic. I think it's actually before. I think it probably is before this time as well, though. Because I'm looking up her stats here. It looks like she was born around 260 something BBY. So,
Mhm.
sounds like that's quite a bit before this time as well. So maybe we don't see Avar Chris in here, unless she does
Lived a
something
long
that we don't
time.
yeah, something we don't know about, the Jedi back then. They lived, 3 times longer than they should, but no, yeah, so I'm definitely excited to see what's gonna come of this. You kind of mentioned earlier, what was it? Jedi Feast, or Fest, or Jedi
Yeah,
Fest?
yeah.
It should be feast because 'cause we're gonna be eating good with all these Jedi around, so, yeah, it's gonna be exciting and definitely a time that we've never ever really, looked into, uh, outside of, these, the books and the comic books that are out now. So we're gonna have to do a little bit more research, I think, going into this show. There's gonna be a lot of books that we got to read before we enter the Acolyte.
Little teaser there. We're gonna be doing an episode in the coming weeks, about Darth Plagueis. So,
Oh.
how much that will pertain to the Acolyte, I guess, remains to be seen. The other thing I'll say about this one, and then we can move on to Skeleton Crew, is that, um, there's only 8 episodes, which I personally am a little hesitant in that regard.
Mm,
I think it's very difficult, and I know that there will more than likely be a second season and perhaps even more than 2 seasons of this show. I think it's very difficult to tell a complete story in 8 episodes, especially with the Disney Plus length of episodes that are, you know, 42 minutes long or whatever. If they extended those to even like an hour, that extra time allotment would be, I think, pretty beneficial for storytelling. I would love to have seen this get even 10 or but even more so 12 episodes. I just think 8 is so difficult to tell a complete story in. So that's something to note as well. And I'll talk about this show just a little bit more later. Well, I'll save, I guess, some of my more complete thoughts for the
mhm.
end of the podcast. But that's sort of briefly what Acolyte might have in store for us. something that
How
I know I'm looking forward to a lot.
how many episodes was Andor again?
Ooh, I think if I remember correctly, and I can fact check this real quick. Off my memory, I want to say it was 10.
So I was
Uh,
thinking too.
but I guess while I'm checking that, the reason
Yeah,
I think
because Andor was it definitely had that complete story feel, that
it was
feeling. So I
actually
wanted to make
12.
sure it
Andor
was
was
12.
12.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
So
so that's why it felt so complete.
right. Well, imagine for just an example to use Andor. Imagine telling the prison sequence because I think what that was it 2 or 3 episodes in total, or like two and a
Probably,
half maybe.
probably two. Yeah, that's what I would guess it at.
Like imagine telling the prison story of Andor, which I think is the best part of that show. Imagine telling that in one episode. I
Right.
mean, it would just feel so condensed and rushed, and I am looking forward to this show so much. I don't want it to
Yeah.
feel
I
condensed and
wonder what
rushed.
goes on with that decision making where I mean this is a brand new era,
Mhm.
right? You have all these new characters that you're going to have to introduce, have to, character build over the time of the season. And to only have 8 episodes, it does really seem like a disservice to the show. So hopefully they know what they're doing, and they and I don't know if this is kind of where I'm thinking like will there be you should do this before you watch this show. Read this book, read this comic, something where there's some prerequisite work here. Because like we said, this is the first live action for the High Republic, so you
Mhm.
got to come out swinging, and you got to land it.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be as much of that as there probably was for Ahsoka, let's
Hmm.
say, just because, there's so much stuff that involves Ahsoka that you could watch as kind of a background, to watching that first season, like all the Rebel stuff. But there's a lot of, expanded universe and legend stuff, which would probably be pretty beneficial for the Acolyte viewing. But
Right.
as to what level they'll use all of that for the show, I think it's kind of hard to say since from my understanding, we're getting entirely new characters in this show, so
Hmm.
remains to be seen. Also worth noting that Mando season 3 was also 8 episodes instead of 10 or 12, and I was I was not thrilled 3rd season of Mando.
And
So,
one of them had Jack Black.
and you're never gonna let us live that down. Also,
Yeah.
I just realized that Mando season 1 and 2 also had 8 episodes, so
Hmm.
I guess it's not indicative of the ability or inability to tell a story. 8 just makes me a lot more nervous than 10 or 12. Anyways, Acolyte probably coming out more towards the end of this year. We'll see. The next show we're going to talk about is Skeleton Crew. This is also not slated. Well, originally it was slated for a 2023 release, and now, of course, is probably going to fall somewhere within a relatively close timeline to the Acolyte and not be released until the end of this year, 2024. The synopsis for this one is somewhat shorter than the last, simply being, depicted as a group of kids who find themselves lost in the vastness of the galaxy, trying to find their way home. It will also take place in the same timeline as The Mandalorian, which I think some people, myself included, were unaware of until recently. I read this and I was like, oh, okay, that makes me feel a little bit more into the idea of it. Perhaps we'll see a little bit of crossover in season 4 of the Mando of some of these characters we'll get introduced to in Skeleton Crew, which is kind of fun, more interconnectedness. Perhaps they'll even show up in the Filoni movie, which is supposed to come out in like, probably 2 years or so, hopefully not more than that. And the teaser for this, actually, there was an exclusive teaser that was shown at Star Wars Celebration, which I'm honestly not sure. Do you know? Was that teaser kept just to Celebration, or was it
Yes.
released thereafter?
Yes, it was just kept to Celebration.
Okay, so there's people out there who, they have the information up here that they've probably obviously shared by now, but,
Hmm.
they've got the visual information that you and I might not have, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, we need to get in on some of these panels.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I'm telling you, Joey and I are planning on doing a live stream from Skeleton Crew, from Star Wars Celebration,
Yeah, yeah, in Japan.
sometime in the near future. Yeah. Yeah. Gibbo's gonna be there with a GoXLR mixer, like, oh, the
Right in the middle of the showroom.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll just say, "Hey, Kathleen, can
Hey,
we just get this
Kathleen.
space?"
Hey, Katie.
We need it for an hour, maybe an
Hey,
hour, 15
Katie.
minutes.
Katie, come here, Katie.
Yeah.
We got a favor to ask.
Yeah. Um, Skeleton Crew is one that I feel like I was looking forward to when it was announced a lot, and I think the more and more that it's kind of been pushed back, and the more and more we've got these other awesome products like Andor, Ahsoka, even Acolyte, which hasn't come out yet, which I would say I'm more excited for than Skeleton Crew. I think it's slightly dampened how
Mhm.
much I'm excited for this. But I think because my expectations for this are lower than some of the other products we're going to get in 2024, I would be willing to venture that this will be the one that surprises me the most too. Or at
Mhm.
least I hope it's the one that surprises me the most.
Right.
Do you have any expectations with Skeleton Crew going into this year?
Not really. I love Jude Law.
Yeah.
He was great in the Marvel movies, and Captain Marvel movies, and so many other things. So I'm excited to kind of just see him in Star Wars. So that's kind of what's carrying me into this. As far as the storyline, it just reminds me, and I think we've said it before, it's like a Goonies type of feel,
Mhm.
which I loved Goonies growing up. So maybe if it's able to kind of have those same types of vibes and kind of pull at us like that, I think it could be a lot of fun, like you said. So I'm not really expecting too much of this particular show being like, oh, this is the greatest show. But I mean, that's kind of what I thought going into Andor. So who knows? Who knows what'll happen with this show here? It may be a one and done thing. I have no idea. But you bring up a good point where if it is during the Mandoverse, maybe some of these characters make its way into the movies, or but the unfortunate side of things is that we kind of know what happens to all the Jedi at kind of pretty soon after this era, so I don't like thinking about that too much, but it's the big elephant in the room that someone has to talk about. So hopefully that's obviously that's not something that we'll see here, but who knows, what's the hopefully they all just kind of separate and we never see them again, and they're just out there being who they are. But yeah, I think it'll be a fun show. I think we said it was what, the end of the year.
Mhm.
So what I said last year, if this was something that was on during Christmas time, I think this would be kind of a nice little cozy thing to watch towards the end of the year. But otherwise, like I said, Jude Law, I'm pretty excited to watch, as well as maybe being pleasantly surprised by the show.
Yeah. Yeah. Stay tuned for updates on both this and the Acolyte, the two live action shows we'll be getting this year. I really hope we get some updates here in the coming weeks, even. Seems like it's been a little bit radio silent for a little while now, but yeah, looking forward to both of these shows very much. And I think for me personally, it even says a lot about kind of the lineup of shows for 2024 when if I had to look at everything, this is probably what I'm least excited for, but not, not for the sake of it being something I'm not excited for. Just that I think the lineup of shows is very
Yeah,
strong. And so, something has to be what I'm least excited for.
right.
And this probably falls in that spot. But having said that, because my excitement or expectations are lowest for this show, I think it could be the one that surprises me the most. So anyways, looking forward very much to Skeleton Crew towards the end of this year. The next show we wanted to discuss is the third season of The Bad Batch, which has also been announced as the final season of The Bad Batch, which I was kind of hoping we would get more. And this is another one that I'm like, how are they going to be able to, do the rest of this show just in one season? The release date for this is also unknown. Nothing has come out in regards to that's going to be released at this time of year versus this time of year. I think there's a fan theory going around that it's going to be released on May the 4th because I think that's when either season 1 or season 2 of Bad Batch or
Mm,
maybe both were both released on May the 4th of their respective release years. And so there was a recent update, just I believe 3 weeks ago, about the third season of Bad Batch, which stated the show is in good shape and finishing the mixing sessions. So, I mean, they use the word finishing. That could mean, we've started the finishing process or we're almost
Right,
done with
yeah.
the finishing process. So the update is a little bit intentionally vague. And all that to say, I think it's very well possible we could get this for a May the 4th release. At least that's what I'm hoping for. And just in terms of the story itself, we got a huge cliffhanger at the end of season 2, in addition to a pretty emotionally impactful sequence of events. Trying to be vague once again. If you've
That's
seen
very vague. Nicely done.
yeah, if you've seen season 2 of The Bad Batch, you obviously know what I'm talking about, and for the sake of maybe someone listening who hasn't seen Bad Batch, I guess I'll withhold any particular names, but you definitely know what I'm talking about if you've seen it. There was another thing, which I don't think this spoils too much, at the very, very end of the last episode, with someone named Emery Care or Emery Carr. Can't even remember how to pronounce her name, where something was revealed about her as it pertains to our one of our main characters, Omega, which was like, oh my gosh, which is definitely going to be probably where the story focuses the most of its time in the 3rd season of the show. Joey, I made a note of this because I know you're a fan. Fennec Shand confirmed as returning in the 3rd season. Pretty fun
Go.
to see her in animation.
Yeah, she was a pleasant surprise when she came up in she was in Mando first, right? Wasn't that where we
Yeah,
at
yeah.
first got introduced to her, and then
And
she
then Boba Fett
ended up a
too.
Book of Boba Fett. Now she's taking over the. I mean, she's gonna be everywhere. She is the Boba Fett that people wanted. I think
That's
that
a good point.
the way that she's kind of ruthless and able to still kind of do things from the heart. I think she is what everybody wanted Boba Fett to be. But hey, I love Ming Na Wen. So however we get her into Star Wars, I was so happy.
I would say this is probably what I am the second most excited for this year.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to pick, and I'll reveal what I'm most excited for at the end of the podcast, but for me, this is one that I've really grown to love these characters. I don't
Yeah.
think I was super in during season 1, even though I liked it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think season 2 made me super in on the Bad Batch.
Right.
And now I'm to the point where I'm like, dang, we only get one more season of this, you know?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Um,
This was definitely a surprise to me. This entire series, where I wasn't a huge fan of season one, like you said, but season two just completely drew us in, and you really started to care about these characters, and the way they did it, with the split between the main crew, and then with Crosshair, that whole thing was very compelling, and seeing how Omega took pretty much everything. I mean, she's a child, and how she was able to kind of process everything throughout the season. Yeah, it was just such a well done show, and I'm still kind of shocked of how much I enjoyed it.
this was also along with Andor, one of the first things that you and I ever watched together.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll be watching the 3rd season together whenever it does make its way to the small screens on Disney Plus,
I'm I,
hopefully sooner
I'm
than later.
I'm telling you, I think we're gonna have to be watching Bad Batch, Skeleton Crew, and Acolyte all at the same time or something here,
Yeah.
because the way that this is, they're pushing everything towards the second half of the year. I think we're gonna have some long weeks ahead. Get ready, Gibbo.
We're just gonna have to like block out a week of just like, all right, we're just watching Star Wars for 7 days straight. We've Gibbo says in our podcast chat, I quit.
Oh, sevens.
Oh sevens. Just a couple last things for today's episode. Our remaining 2 things that we are looking forward to in the 2024 year. The first of those last 2 is the 2nd season of Tales of the Jedi. For those who have seen this, the first season of this show literally came out of nowhere. There was like no press for this, like no one knew much about it, and then it was like, oh, look what just dropped on Disney Plus. And it's these 6 episodes, 3 about Ahsoka, 3 about pre Clone Wars Dooku. Well, actually pre Phantom Menace Dooku. I believe. Well, some of them are pre Phantom Menace.
Hmm.
Anyways, Ahsoka and Dooku, and you really get to see the depths of those characters, aspects of them that you have not seen before, including their upbringings, the origins of some of their ideologies, especially in the case of Dooku. And so, just something that came out of nowhere and blew a lot of people away, to
Hmm.
the point where there was a pretty widely, a pretty wide loud voice amongst fans that said, We need more of this."
Right.
And so it's been confirmed in the coming months following the show, and we're getting the second season of this at some point in 2024. Unfortunately, as is the case with I think every single thing we've talked about today, there is not an exact date set for the release of this, which would, as you've said, Joey, indicate that this is probably not coming anytime during quarter one, unlikely during quarter two. But we can hold out hope perhaps for a May the 4th release for this as well. And for the synopsis of this in terms of Tales of the Jedi Season 2, because there's literally no information on characters or anything like that, there's nothing confirmed about who it's going to focus on. I think
Hmm.
the largely held opinion or belief is that it's probably going to be new characters, but I guess they could do more Ahsoka or more Dooku episodes if they wanted to. But if you had to pick someone, and
Yeah,
this is a
I was
question
gonna
for
ask you the
anyone.
same. I was gonna
Oh,
ask you the
okay,
same
okay.
thing.
So, we'll both give an answer, and do you wanna go first? You want me to go first?
Yeah, because I'm gonna steal yours. Balin Skull.
Oh, you were gonna steal mine.
I think Balin would be a really cool
Yeah.
one to see because he was introduced in Ahsoka and obviously he had some ties to the Jedi. I think this would be the perfect opportunity to show a little bit about his story, his time with the Jedi, and his run-ins and everything. I think this would be a perfect time to show it. Unfortunately, like we've said before, we don't get to see Ray Stevenson anymore. So, whoever will take his place, I think this would be a good opportunity to still honor that particular role, and hopefully, we just get more info on him. He was just such a great character.
Ah, I would have said Balin too.
I
I
know.
guess I could say the very popular fan answer, which may very well be what they end up doing, which I think is Mace Windu. I think a lot of people wanna see
Mhm.
some Mace Windu pre-Phantom Menace stuff. Um, I'm gonna kinda go out of left field on this one. My initial instinct was Darth Maul, and I think we have a lot of Darth Maul
Mm,
stuff,
true.
like, also pre-Phantom Menace Darth Maul, is what I was thinking. But I think I wanna see Asajj Ventress stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I
Yes.
I think I want to proliferate more Asajj Ventress in
Shoot,
our Star Wars.
that's a better answer than mine, actually. Can we switch?
Well, with the eventual hope of seeing her in live action, because I think that'd be
Yes.
so cool. Uh, and it would also give a little bit of affirmation to the character. By the way, I just ordered it's sitting on my little table over there. I just got my copy of Dark Disciple in the mail,
Oh,
which
you're gonna love it. Oh, I
yeah,
can't wait for you to read that one.
yeah,
That's a
yeah,
good one.
looking forward to that too. So, anyways, I'll go with Asajj Ventress from my answer, who I like to see in season 2 of Tales of the Jedi.
Is there anywhere we can get a live action Asajj Ventress right now? In any series, any movie
I mean, I don't
coming
know
up?
I don't know how long Dathomirians live, but I'm pretty sure she was born like much after the timeline of the Acolyte. So
Right, yeah.
I
No?
I,
So
I don't
no at
know.
this point, yeah.
Not currently, I guess, but
Yeah.
never say never. But
Come on, Dave. Get it
come on,
done.
Dave. We need Asajj in live action. Get it done for us. So yeah, Tales of the Jedi. No solid timeline for this. Just confirmed to be coming out during 2024, and that really does it for all of our TV shows that will be coming out during the year. All of these premiering on Disney Plus, of course. The one thing that we're also looking forward to, which is more in the video game realm of things, something we touched on at the top of the podcast, is the open world game Star Wars Outlaws. The release date for this, as is everything during the 2024 year, it seems, is not coming out until the end of 2024. As we stated at the beginning of the podcast, it was revealed by, I think it was a Disney statement or a Disney executive who said this would be coming out during the 24-25 fiscal year, meaning quarter three or quarter four of 2024. So um, for at least 6 more months, unfortunately. But there is a bit of gameplay if you're watching the video version of the podcast that we're also showing here on the screen from the trailer we got just a few months ago, I believe. Essentially, if you don't know what this game is, it's an open world game, meaning it's kind of like a choose your own adventure game to some extent. Although I think the ending is the same for everyone, regardless of the direction you take. But this is set between episodes 5 and 6. Episode 5, Empire. Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, when the Empire allowed bounty hunters to run more freely than ever before. This main character who you're seeing, whoever's playing the demo here on the screen, her name is Kay Vess, and she is, of course, a bounty hunter, a gun for hire, who works for different criminal syndicates, and in the process gets herself into quite a bit of trouble. And during the game, players will be able to play as her and take on missions for those various crime syndicates. One of the major ones of which includes seeing Jabba the Hutt in the game. I haven't seen this gameplay trailer before this moment, so I don't know if
Oh,
Jabba the
really?
Hutt. No, I haven't. Yeah, I
No,
don't know if Jabba the Hutt appears or not.
I don't
Does
think
he?
he shows up here. No,
Hmm.
no. But yeah, I think in this particular trailer, if you're to watch it in its entirety or this gameplay, I think you are able to just kind of jump into a ship and then take off from right from the planet. So one of the cool things about the fully immersive open world
Hmm.
uh, style of this game of gaming is that you can just kind of do anything you want. There's no real missions, there's no side missions or anything. You just kind of just go. You go with it, and here she's getting shot by what I believe are stormtroopers, and she just takes off. So I think it's just a cool looking. I almost said movie, a cool looking game here, and it's just yeah, just a lot of fun. Yeah, I think you were gone when me and Alex actually had watched this as part of the episode that we
Oh,
did.
yeah, yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
right.
it was definitely a cool. It looks like a great game. The graphics look incredible. So definitely looking forward to this. But like we said before, no date. So we're gonna be real busy in the second half of the year.
I just hope that everything this year that they've said they're going to release, that they actually release in 2024.
Hmm.
Like I would be willing to bet there's a pretty good chance this will still fall within the 2024 timeline. I'm just
Hmm.
hoping that's the case with the other 4 shows we've talked
Of
about
course.
already. But
Yeah.
um anyways, yeah, pretty cool concept. I guess for anyone listening who's not like a huge video game person, when we say open world game, what that kind of means is, well, I guess for example, let's compare this to the other large Star Wars game of the past 5 years or so, the Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor games. Those, in some manner, are very linear in the sense that there's a story it's telling you. You do this mission, then you do that mission to meet this person, to get to this place, to do this thing, to find the final ending or whatever. This is a lot more like not linear, and that's kind of what we mean when we say open world. So, anyways, kind of for those who might not be as into the video game side of things as I know you and I are, Joey. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a great game. I think it's a mix of a lot of different previous styles of Star Wars games. Like we're seeing space battles here. Something that's always been one of my favorite parts of like Star Wars Battlefront, for example. Love the space
Right.
battles in that game. Uh, a lot to look forward to with this game. If I had to guess, I don't think it will get the same level of reception that Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor
Mm.
did because it
Hmm.
lacks like that Jedi, component
Right.
to it. But I think in terms of what this could do for the future of Star Wars games, it's pretty groundbreaking in the sense that it is open world. So we'll definitely be playing it, maybe even here on the channel for some
Yes.
live streams.
Hopefully, yes. Actually, get to finish it this time too.
Ooh, there's a light speed jump. That was
Yeah.
super
See,
cool.
told you this looks
Okay,
cool.
okay, I'm in. Well, yeah, hopefully we do get this in quarter 3 or quarter 4 of this year. And so, having said all of that about each of our shows and as well as this video game we've just talked about here, it's now come time for you and I to talk about what we are most excited for out of all of these options in the 2024 year. I'm going to preface this by saying you and I also didn't talk about Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures, which is coming out with
True.
new episodes, I think this month or maybe next month.
Hmm.
Um, Sad to say, it is not what I'm most looking forward to in 2024.
Yeah.
But that is also all coming out this year for what it's worth. So, having said that, what I am most excited for out of all of these options is the Acolyte. This is the one that, for me, garners the most interest. A lot of that is because it's sort of centered around dark side Force users. I'm really interested in seeing kind of that perspective of Star Wars. That's something we've really never had before, in the sense that these are going to be the leading characters of an entire show. As we've said earlier, it's set during the High Republic, which is an era of Star Wars that you and I have recently become more and more invested in with reading some different comic books and whatnot. So, um, in that regard, this is what I'm most looking forward to. Gonna be a Jedi fest, as we talked about earlier as
Mhm.
well, and the casting for this, um, I just everything with the Acolyte is something that gets me pretty excited. So I'm gonna go with Acolyte for my pick. How about you?
I'm gonna go a little different route. I'm gonna go with Star Wars Outlaws, actually, the video game. I you could tell I was a little giddy even watching the the gameplay there. It looks like a lot of fun. Like we said, before, it's an open world concept and you just kind of go do whatever. I do like that, the kind of the opposite of what you're saying with the, Acolyte having a lot of action and Jedi. This absolutely does not have that, kind of, at its what it looks like here. It's about bounty hunters, it's about scoundrels, it's in the kind of the seedy areas of the universe, talking about Jabba the Hutt and all this stuff. So I think this is a very different take on Star Wars video for gaming, especially. So I'm hoping this is going to be pretty good because it's kind of opening up, and it's during an era that I love during the original trilogy. Obviously, I'm going to be all in on that too. So I think this is going to be what I'm right now most excited for. And like once this comes out, I want to definitely play it, and to kind of go under every single nook and cranny just to see everything. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about this one for 2024.
Nice. Yeah, this will be an interesting one if we do decide to live stream it because it's not linear because it is open world, so it's
Right.
kind of just like probably just sessions of exploring essentially. So good pick though. I'm also very, very excited for Star Wars Outlaws, which also leads to what we want to ask all of you listening. What are you most looking forward to in Star Wars during 2024? Let us know down in the comments of the video version of the podcast, or of course, hit us up on any of the socials with what your thoughts might be on what you're most looking forward to. If you want to rank each of the things we talked about today, in terms of your excitement levels. Feel more than welcome to do that as well. So once again, what Star Wars are you most looking forward to in 2024? And speaking of ranking, next week during episode 64 of the Hoth Hangout podcast, both Joey and I are going to be ranking all of the animated series in the Disney era of Star Wars. We're going to be focusing, of course, on Young Jedi Adventures, Bad Batch, Tales of the Jedi, the Clone Wars, of course, also Star Wars Rebels, Star Wars Resistance, and Visions. There are many good ones to choose from. Will Joey and I have the same rankings? You'll have to tune in
Again.
next week. Again, you'll have to tune in next week to find out. But catch us next week on the Hoth Hangout podcast for when we're going to be ranking all of these animated shows of the Disney era. We're looking very much forward to that as well. And that about rounds us out for this week's episode of the podcast. If you're not yet subscribed over on YouTube to the Hoth Hangout podcast, check us out there for the video version of every podcast, as well as all of our reactions to new Star Wars shows when they do come out. Additionally, you can contact us via email. Our email is hothhangout@gmail.com. Feel free to shoot us any of your Star Wars thoughts or comments or questions. We'd love to showcase them here on the podcast as well. You can listen to the Hoth Hangout podcast wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify and Apple. And if you are listening on any platform where you're able to leave a review, leave a 5-star review. We would appreciate it very much, and it allows others to also more easily discover the Hoth Hangout podcast. So appreciate you, and thank you for doing that. Additionally, we are reachable on the socials, whether it be Instagram, TikTok, or X. Leave a, or excuse me, you can check us out on each of the socials at Hoth Hangout, of course, on each of those. Joey, any last thoughts on the 2024 year that we have ahead of us before we sign off for this one?
Like we said before, it's got some big shoes to fill from 2023. So unfortunately, we won't get to put on those shoes until like September or something. So we're going to be cold for a while. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully we get some information sooner rather than later on some of the updates here. But in the meantime, we'll wait and keep having this podcast.
Absolutely. Disney, give us some shoes. Come on, our feet are cold. Lastly, we do want to say thank you to Gibbo for producing today's show, all the videos and assets, and for bringing in the new year with his birthday once again. uh, join us in wishing Gibbo a very happy birthday,
Happy
the
birthday,
man that
Gibbo.
makes the podcast go. Happy
Thanks,
birthday, Gibbo.
guys.
We appreciate you, man. Well, until next week when we'll be discussing the animated Disney shows, the animated shows of the Disney Star Wars era. We look forward to talking about it then. Thanks for joining us for our discussions of everything ahead in the 2024 year. Disney, please give us some shoes to wear. Shout out to George Lucas. Shout out to Dave Filoni. And until next week, we hope to catch you every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern for the Hoth Hangout podcast. Thanks so much for listening to this one. And until next time, may the force be with you.